Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you. Come on, everybody. Come on. Like me, thumbs up, snowman. Beating Bernadette here today. Ouch. Snowman and Bernadette sending you all so much love. For those of you who are on YouTube, I'm on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Meet Snowman and Bernadette there, but we're also on Facebook / Santita Jackson and Friends. Facebook /Facebook.com / Santita Jackson and Friends. That's where I am. I am on X at Santita J, And of course, I'm on Blue Sky, santitajackson.bsky.social. Santitajackson.bsky.social. You know, it's Black Music History Month. We celebrate really the art forms that have been created on this soil have been created by Black people, by Black musicians. And so this is the time of year where we acknowledge that. Quincy Jones said maybe 30 years ago or so, he said, the great power of America is the culture. Indeed, we probably have the most imitated popular culture on earth, and that's driven by Black artists. And one of the things that I learned, thank God for Roberta Flack and having had her in my life, when I said that I wanted to sing and I was looking at my options, I talked to her. My father said, no, you need to talk with her because she's going to tell you the truth. First, Roberta is a teacher. She was a teacher in the public schools. Now, this is a woman who got a full scholarship to Howard University at the age of 13. She didn't go until she was 15, but she took all of that genius, and she was playing at a wonderful little club on Capitol Hill at night because she just loved her music. And she became so popular, they had to build a room on top of the club because they could not fit all of her fans in. And she had to perform several shows a night to accommodate all these people. But during the day, she was teaching in the public schools. She came across someone like, who was it? Richard Smallwood, among other people. Yeah, but she wanted to teach. She said, to me, she said, I hear something and I know there's something in there that could be great, Santita, but you have to learn. I want you to really immerse yourself in the learning about your instrument, learning about the voice. When you really study the voice, on the days that the voice is not there, you'll know how to work with it and you'll also know how to preserve it. Some of the greatest singers that we know have had tremendous vocal problems because, as much as they thrilled us, they didn't know how to do it. Doesn't mean that you can't do it. It means you need to know how so you can preserve the voice. A friend of mine who was a very studied and brilliant musician in the Black church, whose father, this name is Pierre Walker, and his father, Reverend Dr. Charles Walker, was an opera singer and a classically trained musician. We all came out of fellowship, Ms. Lindia. And I was marveling at one of these singers. And I didn't grow up in the church choir. I grew up in chorals, in the chorale. And I did choral singing in high school and college. And he said, oh, yeah. He said, oh, they're great. But they only do it once a week. He said, you have to sing every day, Santita. So when you have to sing every day and when you have to sing for a living, when you have to sing on Broadway, when you have to go on the road, and when you want to preserve the voice, you have to know how. And the greatest singers that we know, believe it or not, they study. But it's not just enough to study. You need to study with someone who really understands the voice. You really need to study with the best. And you know me, I'm always going to try to find the best for you. Well, I heard about this woman for years. I mean, how many people sit on the board of governors of the Grammys? How many people work with the biggest names in the business? How many people are professors at USC? Yeah, that USC, University of Southern California. She indeed is a vocal master, a concert singer, an opera singer, and a teacher. One of the things that so impresses me about Lindia Johnson, also known to all of us, and I'm one of her students as well, Ms. Lindia, is that she takes all that she has learned and she's brought this back to the community, like Eartha Kitt did. Eartha Kitt had a dance school, a fine art school that she opened in Watts. Miss Flack, part of her legacy is having a music school, an academy in Newark, New Jersey. And I met her on the south side of Chicago, teaching some kids how to use these magnificent voices. And sometimes she had some resistance because we're just supposed to do it. No, you don't just do anything. My father said after he met Lindia, he said, oh, he was so impressed with her. He said, yes, yes, yes. You could hear from her comportment and her voice that she really understands the voice. And as I studied the voice, Ms. Lindia, it was interesting. The people, they would point out to me, you know who you need to listen to? And some people, they didn't know this was my dad. You need to listen to Jesse Jackson. You know, Reverend Jesse Jackson. I said, really? They said, oh, yeah. He stays in his mask. I've never heard him lose his voice. For someone who preaches and speaks the way he does, for him not to lose his voice, he understands how to use his voice. So I bring to you someone here who's going to help us to understand the importance of learning about the voice and really, and the importance about finding our voice. Singing is so about so much more than singing. It really, my best teachers, Ms. Lindia included, are therapists. They can tell when you are having a bad day or when you're really having a tough period, or conversely, when you're in a great space. And so they teach you how to protect your space emotionally, physically, all the things that we need to do to more than becoming the best singers and artists that we can be, but becoming the best people we can be. Ms. Lindia Johnson, everybody, of Sterling Voice Coaching. Hey, Ms. Lindia.
Hi, Miss Santita. It's
It's
so nice to be here.
I
Santita.
just I had to give you all that runway because there's just so much. I called you this morning and I said, you know what? I've always wanted to talk to her about the voice. I've always wanted to talk to you about um, when about about the importance of learning.
Hmm. Hmm.
And because as I said, getting people don't realize how hard Michael Jackson worked at his craft. I mean, I think he's saying he had two sessions, 45-minute sessions every morning,
Hmm.
one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and he did a rigorous 15-minute exercise before he would sing.
Yeah.
He did this every day because it's a muscle. So talk to me. What is it? I mean, Nancy Wilson said she vocalized every day. Um, I think it was Van Cliburn, the great pianist,
Hmm.
said, yes, I practice every day. The first day, if I miss practice, I hear it. The second day, you hear it.
Hmm.
What is he? Because many people think that folks just wake up and they can sing, or they wake up and they can dance, or they wake up and they can just do what they do. But that's not true.
No, it's not true. It's it'd be nice. Thank you so much. You teed that up so beautifully for me. And I want to begin by thanking you for this opportunity to speak on your show. This is long overdue for me. I've been, we are friends, we are sisters. I'm also an admirer, and I have the privilege of being an overseer of your gift as well. And this is a huge responsibility. I will answer to our Creator for how I've handled the gifts, the vocal gifts that He has assigned to me. So many voices, more than I can count. Someone said, who's followed my career, it's been over, 700, 800 voices in a 25, 30-year career that I've been assigned to take care of, to oversee. But one thing I need to make sure that singers understand is every human being on the planet possesses the vocal instrument. It is a biological instrument. And every human being has all of the parts that make up the vocal instrument: vocal cords, larynx, add and abduction muscles, diaphragm. Every human being has it. Not every human being, though, has the gift to utilize the instrument for music. And that also brings into question why. And the truth of the matter is, I do believe that we all have gifts, and I do believe that the gift of song is something that is given like all gifts are. We do have, many people have like an an edge, a little something special where they naturally can open up and make beautiful melodic harmonic tones with the muscle. Some people are born with this instrument, they become great newscasters or communicators or whatever. Not everyone, though, is really gifted to use it to make music. It is a musical instrument, but not everyone uses it for music. So that's the first thing. Once we are gifted with the instrument, the responsibility of understanding how to play the instrument now becomes our lot in life, really. And that's where many of us fall short, because we believe that if we're gifted with the instrument, then that's where it stops, and it doesn't. It's like owning a car, but you never learn to drive. You own and possess the car, but you never learn how to operate it. Many people are gifted with the ability to make beautiful sounds with this instrument, but never learn how to operate the instrument. And it is an instrument, very much like piano, guitar, flute. The difference is it isn't man-made. And because it isn't man-made, there is a higher level of responsibility to how you utilize it as you move through life and as you move through your own personal humanity.
Let me ask you this. That brings me to uh, one of the one of the greatest vocalists, popular vocalists of all time. Because the great thing about music is that you, as rare, as divine as the gift is, you find some incredible singers everywhere all the time. I mean, God has been generous with that gift, but God has been selective with bestowing
Mm-hmm.
it, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that as we read and about Whitney Houston, for example, we heard her voice change
Mm-hmm.
and we heard her struggle
Yeah.
as she struggled with various other ailments. And everyone, she was human. And she had all kinds of pressures, internal pressures, family pressures, all kinds of things. And you can see that she was struggling to survive. But it turns out that also she felt a tremendous amount of guilt, Ms. Lindia, of Sterling Voice Coaching. Of course, USC associate professor, indeed. One of the last times I spoke with you,
Chair.
you were about to have
Chair of the popular music program.
chair of the popular music program, and you had just had a master class with one of my favorite singers of all time, Patty Austin.
Yeah.
Love her, love her. Um, she really struggled. She felt that she had let God down
Yeah.
because she said she knew that her voice, that a lot the things that she had done had damaged the voice. Talk to me about that, because um, we heard it, but and some people really were not kind to her. And I said, well, she's a human being. And that was one of the things that Miss Flack shunned. She said, no, you cannot smoke. Smoking will change your voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it will hurt your voice. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, drugs, all those things hurt the voice. You can't do those things because you will damage the instrument. But what happened with her? I mean, just
Yeah.
kind of when you step back and look, because what happened?
Well, we are stewards over in all our gifts, and we are a steward over this living instrument. And as a steward, there are certain responsibilities. We are, again, born with the gift, but we also need to be assigned teachers to help us understand how to live in the instrument. Whitney was such an exceptional talent. There
Mhm.
was no denying that, the gift was remarkable. and intuitive, which is how we all find our voice. I found my voice intuitively. You know, I started singing very young, and no, I had no training. It was just a very instinctual awareness that when I made certain sounds, they would come out pleasing to the listener. It was intuitive, though. It wasn't until many years later that I began to understand how to organize sounds so that, you know, my gift could grow and expand with me. Whitney, however, I don't think Whitney did not understand this. But what I do think is that the pressures of living the life that went along with celebrity added to gave her an additional responsibility that I don't think she counted on. I had the pleasure of meeting her several times throughout the years, and fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to think about it, was at that infamous party that she was at the night before she passed away. One of the things that I always remember about her is that she understood that she was the bearer of a significant gift and the responsibility with it. What she didn't count on was the responsibility of the industry, the business, the monetizing of the instrument, monetizing of her humanity that inhabited this instrument. That is what all artists, from Beyonce to Taylor Swift, also have to actually wrestle with. Yes, I sing. Yes, I possess this wonderful instrument. And yes, I even understand how to play this instrument. Now the world has monetized it. It has put value on it. And it has also monetized my humanity as it shows up in this instrument. So therefore, I need to walk, I need to look, I need to behave a certain way. And a lot of times that behavior contradicts who you are. So then you kind of live through this imposter syndrome where you're showing up not really who you really are, who you really identify to be. And the truth of the matter is, Whitney was a gospel singer. And as much as we love the fact that she did popular music, you know, extremely well, just like Aretha, just like so many others, Sam Cooke and so many others, in our heart of hearts, she was a gospel singer. But however, the business didn't monetize her as a gospel singer. And the industry did not identify with her as a gospel singer. So she kind of lived this role as someone else. And that is only sustainable for a certain amount of time. Many of us, you know, play a role sometimes, you know, just to get that job interview. But that's not something that we think we have to sustain forever. It's only to get our foot in the door. And we, you know, I don't judge that right or wrong, but I do, you know, I am in this business. And one of the biggest things that I hear from some of the most successful singers is it always feels as if I have to be someone I'm not in order to sustain the career, you know, my fans expect me to look or behave or be a certain way, or even sing a certain style of music or have a certain aesthetic around my sound. And that's the pressure that sometimes, depending on who you are, that's wholly unsustainable. And Whitney was in this catch-22 where she really loved, you know, the music that reared her, which is that gospel music. But that wasn't permitted. She wasn't permitted to live out that identity in a art form that monetized her as a pop artist or as a pop singer. So that frustration was taken out on a lot of things. And as human beings, a lot of times when we don't have an outlet, we create outlets for ourselves. And many times those outlets become self-destructive.
When the voice is damaged, is it possible to heal it?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. This is one of my biggest, and again, I'm going to talk about this in when I'm in Chicago on June 26th for the
event. What is happening in Chicago then?
On June 26th, I'm going to be in Chicago, the city that put me on the map over 25 years ago for Elevate. Singers on Singing on June 26th from 6 to 9 p.m. It is going to be a room of nothing but singers. And we are going to actually unpack a lot of things about the mysteries behind this voice. We're going to get into the lifestyle it takes to really just successfully live in this instrument and constantly show up singing well, what it is to be, a worship leader, and that constant rigor to just really show up in church every Sunday for the 7 a.m. service, 11 a.m. service, 7 p.m. service, what it's like to actually pursue a career in this, what it's, and demystifying some of the faulty technical things that have gone out there for decades about what it is to live healthy in this voice. There's a lot of faulty information out there from people who just have no idea. And singers are buying into a lot of this. So it's just going to be a safe space for singers to really ask questions, unpack. I'm going to be doing right there on the spot, coaching singers through their problems. For those who want to volunteer, this is going to be a safe space, and I'm just excited to bring this type of event to Chicago. It is actually a soft launch to an event that I'm doing next year here in Los Angeles, the Singers Summit, which was inspired by my now mentor, Miss Angela Winbush.
Howard University, thank you very much.
Yes, Miss Angela Winbush, yes. Yes, okay. An amazing vocalist who is still singing at the top of her game, by the way.
How is she able to do that at this age?
Because
she's in her mid to late 60s.
Even beyond that.
Because I know she's way ahead of me.
The thing about it is, Angela actually understood long ago, even when in her Howard University days, when she was studying there, that and she understands this now, is that the human voice is a living instrument, flesh and blood and tissue, and just like fine wine, it's really how you take care of your body, of yourself, and of the instrument. Like everything in your body, if you abuse it, it will fail. And we know that about things like weight gain, weight loss, and exercising. We know that, and we kind of assume that, but we don't assume it about the voice. We just think it's always going to be there. But in fact, it is a part of your anatomical system. And just like every other body part, if it's not kept in shape, it will fail. And keeping it in shape actually is applicable to how you keep your general body in shape. There are just certain things the voice doesn't like or cannot sustain itself through. It is a very resilient instrument. The musculature is very resilient. It can actually endure a lot. That's why opera singers are able to do 3-4 hour operas in a night. It is a very rigorous instrument. However, the lifestyle that surrounds it also must be highly disciplined. Just like any athlete, any professional basketball player, football player, they live a certain way. Singers, however, don't think that that's applicable to them, but you must live a certain way. This is not an instrument that you can go to the Guitar Center and replace. Once it's damaged, irretrievably damaged, that's pretty much it. Now, it takes a lot to damage it, though, because it's so resilient. There's so much information and evidence now surrounding otolaryngology and how to get the voice rehabilitated. But I didn't actually become a vocal coach to rehabilitate. I became a vocal coach to habilitate, to train voices. Rehabilitating during triage on singers that are just damaged is not really my idea of coaching. However, because I know a lot about rehabilitation, I do it. But that's not what we buy into as coaches. We want to habilitate and maintain careers and maintain the beauty of the voice and continue to inspire singers to use their voice to challenge themselves, to explore other styles and vocal aesthetics. And I love taking a R&B singer and getting them to sing rock. I love taking a pop singer and getting them to sing country and understanding how to use nuances like that because the voice is so versatile. It's not fun when a singer calls me at the 9th hour and says, I can't talk. That's how bad it is. There's really nothing I can do at that point but send them to the otolaryngologist for a quick fix, which could consist of anything from steroid injections to, anything. But there's a lot of medicine that can get a singer back going again. The question is, how often do you want to be in the doctor's office?
Mm. Well, when you, as we're looking at people who are singing, well, now the industry has changed.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a, a part of an interview with Nancy Wilson, and she was saying that the music died with um, with 24 track studios.
Wow.
She said, when and that is everybody when you layer. I mean, when everybody plays their part and the engineer, you know, layers the guitar or the guitars, the horns, each one part by part by part by part. She said, no, when I started, you learned the song. Everybody learned their parts. You practiced and you went into the studio and you just did it.
Yeah.
One take, two takes. I remember Albertina Walker, Queen of Gospel Music. I remember she brought an album over. She had just recorded it and she was playing it for us. Wow, I'd forgotten about this. This was, my goodness, so more than 40 years ago, 50 even. I was a little girl. And she said, you know what? I said, Jackie, she was talking to my mother. She said, I can't believe it. They let you sing it over and over and over again until you get it the way you want it. She said, and I'm not used to that. You sang it, you had to live with how you put it out there. But now it seems like everything is so manufactured, Ms. Lindia of Sterling Voice Coaching, Chicago, June
You
26th.
you know you can call me Lindia.
No, well, I'm saying, I'm just letting everybody know who you are because you're my girl. That's all right.
Yes,
Look,
yes.
but I think it's important for people because I want people to come to this event on June 26th if you can make it. And how first of all, just how do we get there before I
We'll go to my website, sterlingvoicecoaching.com. Registration is on there. Register for the event. And then I'll see you there. It is going to be at the Wax Vino Bar and Restaurant. We actually are going to shut down the restaurant and
Mm,
have the whole restaurant for singers, dedicated to singers. And it's going to be your space to sing in, to ask questions in. It's going to be a safe space. So if your voice breaks and cracks and does weird things, it's a safe space for singers to support singers.
mm,
But to your point, I happen to have the pleasure of also being a vocal producer. And one of the joys that I have is having lived in Chicago before I moved to Los Angeles, having lived in Chicago and did my vocal production training at Pressure Point Recording Studio,
mm,
under the instruction, the mentorship, the friendship of the late great Larry Sturm,
mhm,
who was a friend, a vocal producer, and Chicago knows Larry Sturm. So when I
mhm,
say his name, Chicago producers know who Larry is. Larry found me interesting, one, because he said, okay, you were an opera singer, but now you're coaching pop, rock, R&B, hip hop. You have all of these higher education degrees in voice and voice and speech, but and everything. And now you're a vocal producer. I actually have seen the evolution of technology in the recording studio. And when singers bring me in to vocal produce as well as vocal coach. And one of the things I can tell you is I am not mad at technology. I am not mad at the fact that technology actually can take an average to mediocre singer and and a good producer can use enough of that software to turn out a product that is masterful. Now, where I do part ways with this is that software doesn't really show up legitimately live. So when a singer's in the recording studio, they are getting memorialized um, a product that must be mass produced. That's what the producer's job is, to mass produce your song and get it in a format that can be streamed. that can be played over radio. But the responsibility of the singer is to manifest that live. Now, if the singer is under the delusion that what they did in the recording studio after the mix is what their voice actually did, then that live interpretation of that song is going to be sorely disappointing to their fan base. The difference between what happens live and what happens in the studio is what the singer understands, the difference between the technology that was added, the digital enhancements that was added to their natural voice, and the capabilities of their natural voice. And many singers just rely on technology's digital enhancement and a really good producer, as opposed to learning how to really develop all of the beautiful sounds, tones, and textures that the human voice actually can do naturally. And another thing, technology is actually borrowing from humanity. A lot of the things that is now part of software like Pro Tools, Logic, is borrowed from what the voice actually can do. They've just digitized it. So when a singer hasn't trained to do what the voice can do, or doesn't understand how to get the voice to capture these sounds, technology will take care of it. But a lot of these software companies have borrowed from humanity. So everything that producers understand to do in Pro Tools and Logic and all of this recording software, those companies borrowed from humanity.
Does that ever happen in performance live?
No, not really. I mean, you can mix a live performance. A great sound audio engineer can definitely mix a live performance.
Okay, no, explain that to the layperson. What does that mean?
Well, it just means that an audio mix is just when in a live performance, you've got a sound engineer in the back of the house that's making the necessary adjustments based on the room, based on the microphones, based on all of the components that are influencing the performance, your band, your background vocalist, and he is balancing sounds. He's balancing, frequencies. He's balancing the tone of your voice. He's making sure that there aren't interruptions coming into the sound that will interfere with the quality, the way your voice sounds through the microphone. And many microphones, and there are many microphones out there, will have various capabilities to support a good audio mix. Now, I'm not a live sound audio engineer, so I'm a little bit out of my depth, but because I have so many concerts that I coach, a lot of times I just kind of look over the audio engineer's shoulder and say, okay, what are you doing there? And how are you adjusting this? And they'll say, I'm adjusting this because I want this part of their voice to actually sound a bit more dynamic than this part of their voice. And they can work magic, but they can't really replicate what's happening when a voice is being mixed through a program like Logic or Pro Tools, which happens in the recording studio.
So with the advent of AI, and many people, and I saw some app that will let you, that it purports to be able to take your voice and put it to music.
It is scary. It is scary, but
can that happen?
It can happen. It is happening. It actually has happened several times.
What do you mean?
And AI is this new thing on the horizon that singers, I try not to be afraid of, all of these advancements or evoke fear or that make singers feel concerned.
I'm not fearful. I'm concerned that human beings are being lost in the mix.
I think that is a common concern. Okay. That actually is I hear that a lot. And there's a couple ways you can think about it. I think human beings, because they've developed AI, they need to also develop the boundaries around how how AI is used. Ultimately, what I believe is going to happen ultimately is we will set guardrails around AI. I'm hoping we will. That AI will not completely eliminate a singer's artistic expression or a singer's desire to create sounds from their own instrument, and that singers will not just pursue celebrity, but pursue the artistry of singing, sing vocal arts, which is the fact that you yourself understand that you are an instrument, and this the sheer pleasure of making music with your own voice is driving your artistry, and not allowing technology or AI to actually assimilate a vocal type that is close to yours but not really yours. So I believe that human beings will put guardrails around AI, but I also believe that there will be singers out there who will just want a quick fix.
Which a quick fix meaning?
That if if the music industry buys into my visual, how I look,
Yeah.
how I present myself, and if a certain demographic buys into my brand, my visual brand particularly, and my voice is average to mediocre, I can do the rest through AI and become a celebrity.
But it feels like that's already happened, Lindy.
Well, it has. But then you do have a very large demographic of singers who still are vocal artists too.
And what is the difference? Because see, now we're beginning to see that, and I'm not going to call any names. I don't want to get into that today, but some of the most, some of the biggest selling artists of the past 20 years or so, um, it turns out other people were, they were not the only ones singing on the track,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But see, most people, we have to explain this to people because most people don't know that. They don't understand what happens. And that's why to me what you do becomes even more important,
It does. It does.
but tell people what can happen, because of course we saw that with Millie Vanilli, but it's much deeper than that because they were
Well,
lip syncing, right?
we
But
are so far beyond the what is it?
silly Millie Vanilli.
Yeah, that scandal. We are so beyond that actually, that it's happened numerous times since then, so subtly, so nuanced that we're not even aware of it. That is just so now old school that we are not even aware that we are buying into now this process of AI and so many other types of recorded software that is helping singers, remain in their brand, in their celebrity, and this is being driven by so many different factors, that it will extend far beyond the time we have to unpack it on your show, because it really is being driven by, again, anything that can be monetized. Any human being that has celebrity capacity but doesn't have a really strong vocal capacity but can be monetized. A lot of this now will be, the gatekeepers will be those people who really, really believe in the art of singing and not the art of celebrity.
And that is to be the rub now.
Yeah.
Because well, maybe interestingly enough, um we're just living in a time in which the quiet part is being said out loud,
Mm-hmm.
and people are asking more questions about, even about how the business of politics works,
Mm-hmm.
um, how the business of show works,
Mm-hmm.
specifically how the music industry works. That's one of the things that we saw with Harvey Weinstein and the Diddy trial. And quite frankly, you saw it with Mike Jeffries.
Mm-hmm.
No
Mm-hmm.
one's talking about him with Abercrombie and Fitch, who was a horror. And no one is talking about the things that he did to these boys who were good looking. They wanted to model, and the glamorous life, as Sheila E. sang about, and he was so destructive to just countless, countless, countless young men. Um, we're seeing that. I saw one guy. He said, I think it was Chopper. He was one of P. Diddy's artists. He said, you think that you work really hard to become a success. He said, but the fact is, no, you don't work hard. You're chosen to be a success in the industry. But thankfully, some people really do feel they really are ambitious to be artists. And I had the good fortune of working for someone who was at the pinnacle of, of show business success. Roberta Flack won pop awards, so she
Mhm.
competed against uh, against Barbara Streisand. And
Right.
that was her group. Aretha Franklin. They created the R&B category for her.
Mhm.
Doesn't make it less important, but it was a different kettle of fish because Roberta Flack was always pop. And in fact, there was a tremendous. She was on the cover of Time magazine. And she defined black pop. They said this is a very new category
Mhm.
because she was classically trained. You could hear that,
Yeah.
but she brought in so many elements
Mhm.
of our experience. And my question is, how can we do that now? I mean, this is Black Music History Month.
Right, it is. One of the things, let me just make a distinction or give a small definition. Um, I do not, cast dispersions on anyone who just wants to be a celebrity.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you can go ahead and do
So
that.
celebrity has its place. I'm
It
not.
has its place. Vocal artistry, though, this is how I define it. And I find that even in my position now at the University of Southern California in the popular music program, which was one of a kind when it was founded in 2009, there was no university giving degrees in popular music. USC was the first in that. And one of the things that I noticed in my role, really, in defining vocal artistry is this: the singers really, when they're singing the written word, there needs to be a desire as a singer to express that written word in front of an audience or in front of people. Singers are first driven by the need to express or storytell in front of an audience. We're storytellers. We just do it with music. And intuitively, we do want an audience for that. But once we are on that stage or in that church or at that family reunion or in that wedding or wherever the audience is, there is the second intuitive response, which is, I'm about to sing words that mean something. And I am equipped with a voice that has a very unique sound, tone, texture, cadence, if you will, style, aesthetics. And I'm going to utilize all of that based on my ability to capture those elements in my sound to express these words, which I hope will move this audience either to joy, to reflection, to motivation, or whatever. We are storytellers and we want to use our unique voices to motivate, to move an audience in whatever direction that is. You can have a party up song, you can have a love song, you can have a song that causes audiences to reflect. But vocal art is about the desire to use your instrument to move humanity. No singer, no vocal artist should leave a room after singing and everyone in that room be the same as before when they entered the room. So after any artist sings in front of an audience, that audience should leave different, changed, transformed in some way. That's a vocal artist.
What specifically? Um, I heard Stephanie Mills say something that was so profound. She said, they want R&B, but they just don't want Black people singing it.
Oh, that's again monetizing the culture of Black music, but what they would call diversifying it so that it will reach other demographics like Asian, like our European brothers and sisters. I actually will be going to Korea
Hmm.
because Studying Voice Coaching has a very large contract with a K-pop record company. But the thing
Mhm.
about it is, K-pop, as they know, and I didn't hide this with the record company, K-pop is just Black music.
Yeah.
And that's intentional. It is intentional. Anytime you can take music that had its origins in the African American diasporic experience and put it in another culture, it gains more financial, you know, validity, unfortunately.
But then let me ask you this, because this is something when I first started studying the voice, something that I heard, um, the similarities and dissimilarities between different voices. Like Barbara Streisand wouldn't get a nose job because she said, no, I knew it would alter my voice, the resonance.
It's the same. It's the same experience with Freddie Mercury and his overbite.
Okay.
Yeah,
What?
that's resonance. Yeah,
Okay.
Freddie Mercury also spoke to that. He had an extension in his oral cavity, which is a resonator,
Hmm.
which allowed him to actually do certain things with his voice that someone with less of that extension would not allow. So that protrusion that Freddie had
Hmm.
was just an extension in his oral resonance.
Which goes to this point. I've heard that there are similarities between African and African descended singers and Asians because of the broad noses, the cheekbones, the lips. Is that true?
I'm not sure. And I don't think and I hate to get into that because I do think that 99% of what C-pop, K-pop, and J-pop is just assimilation. It's just them really listening to black music and
And
you
loving
know,
it.
yeah, yeah.
It
Um,
resonated with them. Yeah.
yeah, I do. But because I have so many Asian Korean artists, I actually can get them into a soulful sound just using their natural instrument. They don't have to assimilate.
But that's what I mean.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think that they are intuitively aware themselves of how to do it.
Okay.
I think they do need direction and guidance on how to capture certain resonance factors that are part of the anatomical structure of many people of color, particularly the cheekbones.
Mm.
It's all resonance. But let me go back to what I said in the beginning of our conversation. There are a lot of people of African descent who can't sing, but
Trust.
still possess all of the physical anatomical equipment that you would think, oh wow, you look like you could be a great singer. You have all of the makings of what a great singer, physically, what the voice needs to make great sound, but can't sing a note. Which goes to my fundamental belief that a lot of this, Santita, and that I'm a woman who really, leans into my faith. A lot of this is just at the beginning. I think that you just have to have that little seed, that little gifting, um, that little spark that begins this journey of being a vocal artist. Because I know many, I sometimes, when I'm on my walks here in LA, I can look at a person because I say, wow, they look like they can sing based on
Why?
just
What? How do
right.
you know that?
But they're probably, can't sing a lick
But how do you? Oh, okay. But
because I'm physically looking at resonance structures,
hmm
particularly, distances between certain things. It's just, sometimes visually, I've looked at singers for so long, you can kind of see, wow, they have a certain, depth in their cheekbones, which is, the nasal cavity. I see a lot of depth here in the pharyngeal area, all of the resonance spaces that really make tone beautiful. The more cavernous, the more depth in the human oral cavity, the mouth, the more resonating spaces. The voice is like a cave that you need to go into, and when the more dense and the more depth that cave has, the more resonance is possible. And so every human shape, has different dimensions. That's why we really can't copy another singer's sound. You can get close, but at that point, the question is, are you then a singer or are you an impersonator?
ouch. You know what? We have a few more minutes left here, and I've got to have you back. because it's a fascinating conversation because so many of us, these are things that we don't think about. We take them for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, we see children who have athletic gifts and now we push them.
Mm-hmm.
But now I think we're doing that with kids. We've always done that with kids who've had these artistic gifts that could be performed for the masses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you do um, when you hear a child who you believe is vocally gifted? You remember Jimmy Smith, the
Mm-hmm.
great
Yeah.
jazz organist. He and his wife Joy were very close to my parents, and
Wow.
when she used to stay with us when she came to Chicago all the time. But I'm like 5, 6, 7 years old. I just know it's okay. It's Uncle Jimmy's coming by, but I didn't know. It's when I got older that I find out that he's like the best who ever did it. That Ramsey Lewis, who lived next door, was like, he's rolling down. I'm like, no, he's Dawn's daddy, right? Just. And my father, when I said that I wanted to sing, he said, Joy told us when you were about 6 that we needed to get you a voice teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I said, really? I didn't walk around singing. He said, it was something in your voice that she heard. And she heard you might have done something. What do you advise parents to do, or just someone who wants to sing?
Mm-hmm.
What would you advise them to do?
Three things. One, vocal coaches actually just increase your awareness about what you already possess. As I said, singers usually discover their own voice, but they don't know what they don't know. And so a coach is there to just enlighten. I don't give gifts. I just give you a very clear understanding of the gift you already possess and how to explore and augment all of its possibilities.
Hmm.
That's the first thing. The second thing is that in our community, particularly, and I'll speak for myself, studying music is a luxury because so many people of color are inherently gifted musically. A lot of times the actual formal studying of it is considered like, okay, why do I have to do this when I already am really good at it?
And wait a minute, and you're gonna mess up the gift if you
Right, right,
right.
right. And that's when I always say to parents, because I'm increasing their awareness about what they already possess. Again, it's like owning a car that you don't know how to drive.
Okay. Yes.
What's the point? I'm not messing up the gift and I'm not going to change the gift. What I'm going to do is keep them out of trouble and I'm going to show them how to enhance every aspect of it. So if they choose to monetize it in the music industry, they can. And it won't be this run of a mill because every young person I've met always reaches a ceiling in what they can access in their voice. They sing and sing and sing. And then it gets to the point where they're like, I want to sing these new, more advanced songs, or I want to sing, more in my range, but I just don't know how. And it becomes, maybe I don't have the capacity. And I'm like, no, your knowledge has just reached its limit. Now you need someone like me to come in and show you how much further you can go. So this is not about giving gifts or changing anything. It's about actually taking what you have and augmenting it, increasing your knowledge so that you walk out there an informed singer. More so than anything else. That's the first thing I tell parents. In our community, formal music education is a luxury. And we've got to begin to think of it as we think about all of the money we put into our young budding athletes that are in our community. We will put our kid in pee-wee and football and junior basketball and have bake sales and popcorn sales to buy the school uniforms and everything else. But when it comes to that young person who plays violin or sings or dance, it becomes sketchy. Well, they're already doing it or they do it in church. That's enough. And that has always been the case in our community. And it was the case in my own life, actually. So I speak from personal experience when I was coming up that my church was the only education I had as a singer
Mhm.
until I got to junior high school. And a music teacher actually told my mother she needs more now. She has passed her knowledge.
Mhm.
We can't, she needs someone now who knows more to continue to extract all that's in there.
Mhm.
We can't give her any more. And that's what's happening in our communities. The second thing I say to parents is, this is not about me. This is something that you're going to have to also create an environment that supports your young person in, an environment that encourages practicing, an environment that encourages curiosity about other singers. Listen to the classics, listen to Miss Flack, listen to recordings of Nancy Wilson, listen to classical music, listen to jazz. Create an environment in your home where your child is curious about more than just R&B, so that they know the depth and breadth of what the possibilities are. That doesn't mean they have to start going to operas or country. It doesn't mean that. It just means create an environment where if they want to listen to something else, that you celebrate that in your home. It's like, oh, okay, let's listen to some jazz. Or, okay, you want to put Dolly Parton on? Let's listen. And not allow them to feel like we don't listen to that. That's not who we are. Because that's what my mother did. And that's what actually got me curious. When I heard Leontine Price for the first time, I was like, how is this even humanly possible? Now, I've been a gospel singer up until then.
Mhm.
But my mother just opened up, she didn't have to give me permission. She just opened up. She said, this home is a safe space for you to listen to whatever you want to listen to.
Mm.
And we're not going to make you feel, we're not going to other you in this house.
Yeah.
You can listen to whoever you want. When I heard Barbara's The Way We Were, I'm thinking, okay, how is this humanly possible? I mean, what is this? And how can I do this? And that's when what I was currently doing had reached its limit and I wanted more. I was thirsty for more because I heard other singers. And I would hope for our community that if you have a son or daughter who wants to sing or play piano or anything else, that we give them permission to explore everything and not make them feel some kind of way, because our culture historically comes from more traditional gospel, R&B, blues. You might be rearing an opera singer
Or a country singer.
or a country singer.
Or, I mean,
I love me some Miss Dolly.
Patsy Cline, girl.
Oh, Patsy was inspiring. I actually, when I was a young
Judge.
girl, copied Patsy's tone.
Really?
Yeah, for my own voice. And it was the through line, believe it or not, that I thread over when I was singing classically. The tone was everything. Effortless, the depth, the breadth, the height. I would take it to my coach and say, how do I get this?
Well, I feel Winona Judd. I mean, I love, Bonnie Raitt.
Yes.
I love. And I'm so grateful that that I had the space to love and listen to everything.
Mm-hmm.
June 26th, what is happening?
June 26th, in Chicago, Illinois, singers. You don't have to be a pro. You could be that weekend warrior that just gives your heart and soul to that church choir or to that that worship leader. But you need some things answered. You are struggling, or you just reached the point where I don't know now what I don't know. June 26th, 6 to 9 p.m. Wax Vinyl Bar and Restaurant. I know it's a bar and restaurant, but we have the whole space that evening to ourselves. Singers Unite. I'm going to have some other guests in there to answer some questions for you. I'm coaching right then and there. So if you want to stand up and sing a song for me, I will coach you through it. I will answer the questions. I've been doing this so long, I can get results immediately. This is me just pouring into you. Take this time to just invest in yourself, invest the time, invest your resources, and take care of yourself. And let me help you do that.
Ms. Lyndia, MZLYNDIA. Sterling Voice Coaching, everybody.
Go to the website, sterlingvoicecoaching.com, to register. Again, use your resources to do this. And again, yeah, I love singers. I love taking care of singers, and I've got singers globally. As you know, I told you I'm on to Korea and then Australia. Santita, help me.
No, I told you she's the best, everybody. Ms. Lindy, everybody, sterlingvoicecoaching.com. Get registered, but I'm going to have you back because we're going to talk about this because everybody, you need to invest in yourself and invest in our children. But you know what? It's never too late.
No.
If you feel that this is something you need to do, go on and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Go on and do it. Go on and do it. Reverend Evans said, I've never seen God give you a vision without making provision.
Amen.
Keep on doing it, everybody. If it's in your heart, go on and give it a shot.
Amen.
You might surprise yourself. I love you, Miss Lindy.
Love you more.
AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I am Santita Jackson.